A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritvika Gupta. Tonight we will be deep diving into the world of education to understand how businesses can navigate the ever-evolving landscape of India's educational sector and the potential of the sector moving forward. My first conversation tonight will be with Nitish Jain, Managing Director of SP Jain School of Management, and in the second segment, a peek into the online learning industry with Raghav Gupta, Managing Director, India and APAC, Coursera. Thank you, Mr. Jain, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
It's my absolute pleasure.
So to begin with, I'd like to ask you, what are some of the significant challenges that you see in the education sector in India? And what are some of the major reforms that are required, to enhance management education?
The biggest challenge in one word is quality. And I think we need to improve our quality on the curriculum, faculty, the infrastructure, the research. Every element of education needs to improve. If you want to be world class, it needs to improve on the quality side. Sure. And that's because the focus has been on keeping the prices of fees as low as possible. But I think we have to recognize that the future is also about quality to create the right talent the country needs. And in terms of policy, I think if the government changes one policy, it will influence everything else. So many Western countries, they fund their students because they're rich countries, so they can pay for the educational universities and not charge the students or charge less fees.
Right.
But then there are the other countries, like Brazil, for example, that needs the private sector to fund the education sector. And so they privatized it. For-profit universities are permitted. Okay. Now in India, they've permitted for-profit in healthcare, but they've not permitted for-profit in the educational sector. If they actually implemented for-profit in the education sector, so much more money will come from the private sector that would fund high-quality education. And the competition amongst them will ensure the prices will be kept at a low level.
Mr. Jain, the education landscape, in India saw the emergence of EdTech, especially over the last couple of years. Tell me, do you see that as competition? And if so, how do you plan to reinvent as an institute?
No, so the first question is it's not competition because they don't give a degree. People join a college to get a degree. EdTech is an enabling. It embellishes what we do. It's narrow, it's niche. So it can help in a certain narrow area on developing a certain skill or aiding learning. It cannot compete with a university. It doesn't compete with university anywhere in the world because it's not holistic. It doesn't deliver a full program. Companies that recruit don't look at EdTech. I mean, they would look at a university and the degrees they've got.
So earlier in January, UGC drafted a set of norms, to facilitate the setting up and operation of campuses of foreign higher educational institutions in India. So what's your perspective on India opening its door to foreign universities?
Let's look at this in the perspective of why have they introduced this policy, or they're thinking of introducing this policy. It is to develop Indian talent. Now, the Modi government is very focused on jobs, on India becoming the next superpower. And you can't do it if you don't have talent in your country.
Sure.
Now, the current universities are unable to deliver the sort of high-quality talent that is really required to take the country forward. So if you get the foreign universities to come to India,
Yeah.
it becomes far more affordable because firstly, the fees would be much lower. The living costs are much lower. Today, living cost is at least 30% of the total cost.
Yes.
So that would be reduced and it would become more available to the middle class, which today are not able to afford going outside India to study. So it's a very welcome move. I see nothing but good things coming out if they actually go ahead and implement this.
Right. And looking at it from the other lens, tapping into international markets, you set up your first campus in Dubai back in 2004. And right now you have just recently opened up your London campus as well, where you have also received the new degree awarding powers. So tell us more about that. And also, when you go to different markets, different educational markets, what are the criteria, what are the requirements do you see, to cater to the students there?
SP Jain was set up in the year 2004 on a very simple philosophy. Mm-hmm. As business has gone global, business schools too should be global.
Sure.
Because companies need global talent. It is so often that you will be required to work in a global team or leverage global opportunities. And therefore, we set up 4 campuses in the first 11 years of our existence. From 2004 to 15, 4 campuses, 4 countries.
Okay.
Once we've consolidated our operations in the Asia-Pac region, we thought now we're ready to take on the big, giant educational capitals of the world. London is one of the key education capitals in the world, and the United States is the second educational capital in the world. So we thought we should now set up campuses in these countries and extend the opportunities for our students to move to more countries to enhance their learning.
Sure.
And so you could study, for example, at SP Jain. You can start in Singapore. It's a very nice place to study. And then you can move to London and understand a whole new way of doing business. And then you can come back to, say, Dubai and finally graduate from our Dubai campus. Because each region is different. And because you understand the differences, you really become global. You can't become global living in one country or in one geography. It's impossible.
Right.
And you talked about the new degree awarding powers or NDAPs.
Yeah.
I'm very proud to tell you that SP Jain is the only Indian origin institution ever in the history of India to be granted NDAPs. It's very rare, it's very sought after, because NDAPs allows us to operate in the UK with no partner. SP Jain can offer its own programs, its own curriculum, its own degrees, and that makes it so much more exciting for students who at the end of it look for an SP Jain degree to hang up on their walls.
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned earlier, our show is also about entrepreneurship, and I want to understand how are you through your courses and programs, promoting entrepreneurship and innovation, and basically that entrepreneurial mindset among your students.
So most people, when they teach entrepreneurship, they start from a business plan. Somebody comes with an idea, and then you refine it and create a business plan to perhaps raise money at the end of it.
Yeah.
Which, according to me, is only 30% of a new venture. There is a 70% that precedes this, and that phase is called ideation. You must have that great idea. You must have that big idea. You must be able to create something that others don't have before you. And I think that is a very big focus in our school. So we have whole workshops based on ideation. We look at the trends, we look at competition, we tell students how to think about new projects. So today we are living in a ChatGPT area. So we have now a lot of classes and a lot of workshops for our students to teach them how they can leverage ChatGPT in different business applications. How do you use it in healthcare? How do you use it in entertainment? How do you use it in any area? So I think it's that ideation that I like to focus on, because being an entrepreneur myself, I know that this is the name of the game. And I feel that we're doing a pretty good job. By the way, I proudly share with you, one of our alums has now become a unicorn. So that is something very, very pleasing to us, that all that we're doing actually is resulting in real big businesses being set up.
And which one is that, if you could share?
Yeah, it's a company called Kogoport. It's a software company in the shipping industry and supply chain.
Cool.
And so it's very pleasing.
Nice. Speaking of ideas, the theme for our season, for our show this season is Ideas for New India. So before I let you go, tell me, according to you, what are some of the big ideas, that are really going to impact the education sector in India going forward?
Well, I'm going to convert it into a global question, because I think of India as it should be connected with the rest of the countries around the world. And I think the big idea is technology, because technology is the big 800-pound gorilla in the room. Sure. You have to deal with technology, no matter which industry you are. And education, I think, is one of the last industries to really embrace technology. Yes, we use some technology here and there, but we don't truly embrace it. At SP Jain, every element of our activities needs to be using GPT technology. In fact, if we don't use it, they have to give a paper, why can't I use it? And so I think it's a very big move. I think ChatGPT is really a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think educational institutions need to teach its students, not fight it. Most universities are fighting it. Right. But I think you should embrace it and tell students, we will teach you how to use it, because that is, I think, the future. Certainly, that's my view of the future.
Well, it was wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11, and right now I'm in conversation with Coursera. Well, thank you, Raghav, for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Pleasure to be here, Ritvika. Thank you for having me.
So Coursera has revolutionized the field of EdTech by pioneering the concept of massive open online courses. Tell us what, according to you, are some of the key factors that have contributed to Coursera's rapid growth and success in the online learning market?
Yeah, I think it's a great question to get us started. I think, to me, the core of what we've been doing for learners, for partners, for customers in India as well as around the world has been a big focus on what we call learners first, right? We're always thinking about who the learner is, what their aspirations are, how can we serve these aspirations. And Coursera reaches a very large number of learners around the world as well as in the country. Almost 120 million plus people around the world come to Coursera to learn. About almost 2 crore people in India come to Coursera to learn. And these are students who might be in higher education. These are working professionals who are looking to get ahead in their career, to succeed in their careers. So firstly, we're always thinking about what are the aspirations that learners have and how can we support those aspirations. Second, we've been very focused on how do we provide high quality, career impacting online education at scale at very affordable prices. And as you know, on Coursera, one can learn from the best universities. This was true for global universities in the past. And now we have increasingly Indian universities as well who author content on our platform. And then we're also, thinking about how increasingly the need for learners to learn from industry can also be fulfilled. And today, almost 100 companies create content on the Coursera platform. And then third, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but how does one bring the latest technology to enable learning to become more personalized, more impactful, more career supportive? We are always thinking about that and bringing to learners as well.
Right, so Coursera has also announced partnerships and programs with top Indian institutions. And specifically in India, you also launched Coursera Hiring Solutions to connect learners with the right jobs. Give us an overview of how you see India as a growing market. What are the opportunities? And if you can also talk to us about the partnerships you have in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, we think of Coursera as a three-sided platform. There are learners, there are educators, and then there are institutions that we work with. And as you can imagine, right, learners come to Coursera because they are top educators. Educators come to Coursera because there are many learners on the platform. And so there's a synergy in that axis. Similarly, educators and institutions, which is the second side of the triangle, if you will, also have a lot of synergies. What we've never had so far is connecting learners to institutions and to employers. So if I'm an individual in India looking to, let's say, start a career in technology or in data science or business, how do I get connected to a company? And that's what Hiring Solutions is. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But before that, to your first question about partners in India, Coursera had about 2 institutions in India that were authoring content on our platform about 3 years ago. And over the last few years, we've been actively working on onboarding top universities in the country. And really, proud to say that today now we have 17 top institutions that author content on our platform, leading IITs, IIMs, IISc, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Bombay, ISI, Ashoka University, and so on. And it's incredible that content that Indian universities are creating is going to Indian learners, but it is also going to learners around the world as well. Today, there are almost 840,000 learners who've taken content from Indian institutions, and they've consumed almost 1 million enrollments. So that's why we've gone out and we've partnered with top institutions, take the best of India to India as well as rest of the world. And also companies are now creating content on the Coursera platform. L&T EduTech, PwC India, Tally, and so on. And that's the intent, that let's have the best of India create content. Just very quickly coming back to Hiring Solutions, like I mentioned, the idea is that we want to be able to connect learners to exciting job opportunities. In many cases, these are jobs related to digital skills, these are jobs related to technology, to data, and to management. And what we found is that especially when learners are coming out of campuses, to be able to demonstrate skills is essential in today's world. Companies are saying, look, we want to hire on the basis of your degree, but also on the basis of the skills that you have as a student who's coming out of campus.
Raghav, our show is also about entrepreneurship. It's watched by a number of entrepreneurs, small business owners. Now, there are a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners who are applying for unconventional courses, like technology, over Coursera to really upskill themselves. Tell us, how do you think Coursera has benefited MSMEs, in terms of accessing new learning opportunities and really enhancing business operations?
Yeah, I think working with MSMEs is very important, right? We all realize a large number of companies in the country are in the small and medium size scale. Many MSMEs come to our consumer platform, right? And I think there are probably 2-3 areas in terms of what they are looking to achieve. Firstly, I think given just how rapidly skills are changing around us, right? We first saw digitalization, now there is generative AI and ChatGPT, etc. that have come in. Firstly, MSMEs are looking for a lot of clear guidance on what are the skills that they should be building. And are these skills in the technology domain, in the digital domain, in leadership, in human skills, and so on? So that's one of the purposes that we serve. That let's just provide clear guidance in terms of how should you be thinking about the future of jobs, the future of skills as an MSME. Second, MSMEs are also looking for programs that can really help them build skills in these in their teams and in their employees. They want these skills to be able to help them succeed in their businesses, but also to be able to build their reputation as great employers. Sometimes just by virtue of the fact that a company is smaller may not be as well known as larger companies. Yeah, I think working with MSMEs is really important, and I think it's something that we are serving our purpose by being able to do that.
And shifting the focus to technology, tell me, how is that impacting education? With the rise of automation and artificial intelligence, what role do you see online learning platforms like Coursera playing in reskilling and upskilling the workforce?
Yeah, I think all of us are seeing that clearly the pace of change is actually accelerating than slowing down, right? COVID happened, all of us saw work getting digitalized and remote work, and then now hybrid work happening. Many of us might have thought that, look, the change has happened, now let's sit back and just absorb and digest that change. But then 5-6 months ago comes along generative AI and ChatGPT, and now we're all trying to understand how this impact is going to come in. We've been looking at a lot of the research that is coming. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report for 2023 is one good resource for us to be looking at. And it talks about a very massive number of jobs that will need new skills, right? It talks about 61% of all jobs will need new skills to be developed by 2027. It also talks about almost 2 million new digital jobs that will get created around the world. And the expectation is that the trends will be very similar in India. A lot of us as working professionals will need to learn new skills. A lot of us will also find new digital jobs getting created. UPenn and OpenAI have done a study which talks about how almost half of all jobs will see some or the other impact of ChatGPT and generative AI models.
Well, it was great chatting with you, Raghav. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Wonderful chatting with you as well. Thank you so much.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you and goodbye.